This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Here we are in sunny and sweaty Seattle.
Yes, and I don't know. We had a great show last night. I don't know. So far, it's going pretty well. I haven't been here in years, but the venue, the crowd, everyone's treated us well. So I'm happy to be here.
The Rabbit Box is a killer club, and I have a feeling it's not my last time here. It's having a good time in Seattle.
Yeah.
Well, having a much better time than they're having right now in Bridgeport, Connecticut, because it seems as if a big swash of Interstate 95 is covered in raw sewage, which spilled, causing a series of late night collisions last night. Now, that is a shitty experience for all, I guess. Unbelievable.
Well, that stretch of I-95 sucks. I have to drive it somewhat regularly, and there's always traffic. There's always chaos. I hate it. I mean, I try to do the merit more, but that can get bad too. It's better for the eyes, but
well, they arrested the guy because he had and charged him with 12 counts of reckless endangerment and having an unsecured load. How the hell are you going to have an unsecured load of raw sewage is beyond me. Interstate 95 was closed for about 3 hours.
That must have been a nightmare. Well, I'm glad I'm not there right now. So what about the Long Island serial killer? This is interesting because I just always assumed it was a cop.
Yeah.
One of his former neighbors came out, who was a former wife, would like sunbathe or hang out in her bathing suit in the backyard, and he'd be like peeking through the cracks in the fence, and they had to confront him after a while. It's like, hey man, you're kind of creeping her out. But he backed off and nothing ever happened. But then there was also another moment where he was talking to them before he was ogling them. This is classic, talking in extreme detail about the murders. And they're like, this guy knows a little too much, but they, what are you going to do? Say, hey, I think it's this guy. But I don't know. I guess he's, with DNA and all that shit, I think he's pretty much fucked.
Well, I mean, it's about freaking time. I mean, come on. 20 years later, years. How many bodies?
Yeah, exactly. I know. So what about all these bison attacks that have been happening this summer? You know anything about it?
All I know is, like a lot of other animals, they're going on a rampage. I mean, between the skunks, the raccoons, sharks, pythons, alligators, and killer whales, it seems like everyone's having a heat stroke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know why people. I mean, a bunch happened this year in Yellowstone, in North or in South Dakota. Just people want to get close to those things. I don't know why. Why would you want to get close? Thing like ram this woman like 10, 20 feet in the air. I mean, like, why would you do that?
Moose, bison, whales, alligators, crocodiles, hippos. You're not going to find me anywhere near any of them. No. I mean, you're lucky if I watch them on the Discovery Channel. That's how uninterested I am in being near them.
As David Earl Budden said, you gotta respect nature. Even a squirrel will fuck you up. If you get close to anything, they're gonna go fucking. Well, in a squirrel's case, it's gonna go nuts. But yeah, you just stay away. Trying to think what other things have stories here. I didn't come so prepared.
I'm prepared to take a nap with some forensics before the show tonight. That's what I'm prepared to do. But I'm happy to report that we have a very interesting guest on today who should. Gregory Jacobsen is going to provide enough entertainment, which we might be a little deficient in because we're exhausted, suffering near heat stroke in this weather, doing what we do.
Yes. Well, the real heat stroke is going to be tomorrow in Sacramento, I think. That's be 105 now. So anyhow, but Gregory Jacobsen is I don't know. He's a unique, special character, visual artist and musician, and I'm thrilled that we have him on.
I'm thrilled that we have it on. I can't wait for more episodes. But right now, you know what, people? Go lay down like I'm doing, like Tim's doing. Go take a little nap before. Go lie down and listen to the coming episode number whatever. I'm not even counting that high because I'm too close to the fan and my brain is swirling like a milkshake. So with that, I think it's just time to click out, click in, go on to the next episode and say, this is the Lydian spin. You're here for a reason, and that reason today is Gregory Jacobsen. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Gregory Jacobsen, multimedia artist, painter of the beautifully grotesque and varied, and performer in at least one of the things I know, Lovely Little Girls. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, thank you.
So, Greg, I don't know. I mean, we've done a bunch of shows together, but I don't know if we've had many conversations.
You're a scary person.
What are you talking about?
Your on-stage performance is frightening. But then I've listened to the show many times. And I'm like, oh wow, Tim's a really nice and goofy guy.
Well, I can be many things for many people, but
well, some people might think you're pretty freaking scary there, Greg. Just by witnessing your paintings or your live performances. Although I can't remember the last time I was frightened to see a man wearing a corset and a pair of high-waisted black panties on stage. So that kind of gives me great comfort, actually.
How would you describe Lovely Little Girls? Because it's not. It's kind of non-idiomatic. I mean, there's a prog element, but it's not really that. It's something else. Do you like to describe it?
It started as just like a ridiculous one-off performance piece 20 goddamn years ago. And it evolved into more of a band. And then Alex Perkolup came on, and he's a really good bass player, a really great bass player, and actually brought more form to just the formless chaos of it. And to describe it, I try to bring a lot of different elements into it and not just be noise rock but it's also very much based on me and my performance.
I think it's kind of no wave, audacious cabaret in a sense. And I like the element of, if there is or still is or forever is trombones or other, horned instruments. I really like that element of it from what I've seen.
Yeah, Queen as I Am, that's such a influential record. I love that record.
Thank you so much. Just being reissued as we speak. Yeah.
So how do you, with this kind of, I guess some people would say slightly esoteric kind of music, how do you get so many? It's so hard to get musicians together to do these things now. How many members are Lovely Little Girls right now?
At one time, it was when we played with you in New York a while ago, we were touring with 9 goddamn people.
I mean, that's bold. I mean, that's hard.
For some reason, they all want to do it. I've been in bands for a long time, and it was always everyone just, and this was the first time when people actually liked working with each other, and it was 9 people that liked each other. So it was just in the stars. But were those shows any good? Not really.
You don't think so? You don't think so?
In terms of like what I would want for turnout and such, it was sort of like, oh, great. Yeah, just throw some money in the fucking toilet to go around the country.
You can't predict who or why or how many people are coming to anything. It's a great mystery. It's just impossible to ever estimate or figure out. And the best you can do is just, rape the promoters' pockets who are bold enough to have you do a show and hope they don't lose their entire mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say, were you a musician, performer first, or a painter first, or does this all kind of happen all at the same time when you're growing up? But what's the story of your kind of artistic?
Yeah, let's start with the painting for a minute, because you're very prolific. And again, I want to go back to what impresses me about them is they are kind of beautifully grotesque or grotesquely beautiful. They're very colorful. There's different series, and I'm sure I haven't seen them all, but when I was investigating you, I was really impressed by the amount of paintings there are. And so when did that become a preoccupation, and do you make any money from that? You should.
I make a decent amount of money, not
Good.
fantastic, not like buying house sort of money. And every goddamn day I'm thinking, oh, I'm such a failure because I don't have that house money yet, and I'm almost dead.
You're in good company, trust me. Probably on the Lydian spin, there might be one or two people that actually have reached that status. So I think you're in very good company. Maybe we'll all have a collective together eventually. That'd be wonderful.
I was always a painter. I always wanted to be a performer, but it's easier to just hole myself away in my little room and paint.
When did that start, though? When did the painting start? And when did you go, okay, I got no choice, I have to do this, as these paintings poured out of you?
I would say in high school, I just dicked around. And, I would feel very accomplished if I made 2 shitty little paintings in a year. Then, I was going to either sink or swim. Either I can live some ridiculous dream of like moving away to the city and doing whatever, or going to art school. And art school kind of saved me, but with art school comes incredible debt and incredible guilt, so I have to just work my fucking ass off. I was a lazy fuck, so this was a whole change. And so now my entire being is trying to
pay
the rent and thwart off my parents thinking I'm some lazy fuck that gets nothing done and just dicks around doing stupid bullshit.
When was it ever anyone's duty to please their mother frickin' parents anyway? They bear the curse of your existence for bringing you into this world, so they should be supporting you your entire life.
I mean, I certainly don't try, but I know that it's this little kernel in the back of my head that just influences these sort of things, if that makes sense.
And where did you grow up?
New Jersey.
You grew up in New Jersey, and then you went to Art Institute of Chicago. Is that why you went to Chicago?
Right. Yeah.
I think there's a huge part of you that has not grown up, and I respect that in you.
Has what?
Has never grown up.
Oh, great.
Of course.
Or that might be terrible. I might be just like a stunted little man.
You're a giant-sized baby thing. That's what I am. I think Tim, to some part, is also a giant-sized baby thing.
Well, so how often do you go back to New Jersey and see the folks?
Not very often.
Okay, interesting.
I'm a terrible child.
Yeah, were you an only child, or you have siblings?
I got a brother.
Okay, all right.
It's not very exciting.
So you and your brother differ quite a bit, you would say.
Yeah, he's like a lawyer living in San Diego.
Or like Tim, who is, an Ebola scientist living in Atlanta.
Epidemiologist, that's for sure. Epidemiology. Well, anyhow, so then you go to Art Institute. You go through that's a fine art school, and I guess you should be proud of that. And then you decide to stay in Chicago. You're like, this is my town. Or it was the most affordable big city, or what? Or your friends?
It's an affordable big city.
Right.
I reluctantly live here. I just don't know how the fuck to get out.
Where would you want to live?
Just any place that has more of a supportive infrastructure. But I feel like that's probably just me. Anywhere I go, I'm just going to think that everybody's against me. I'm one of those fucking personalities.
So when the voices in your head tell you that everyone's against you, do you recognize maybe that's fictitious, or do you actually believe that people are conspiring against you?
Oh, I don't know. It's just the constant back and forth.
Okay. So
You
you
really
so
got to flush the toilet in your head there, son, for a minute. Because, first of all, very few great geniuses had a lot of people that were for them until maybe 200 or 300 years after their death. So
who knows?
I
I might be going through this thought cycle just to tell myself I am such a genius. Everybody's against me.
well, you know what? I prefer that attitude because I really don't give a shit who's for or against me. If you are a true artist or musician or rebel, it is because you know you are poisoned to do what you have to do, or you will truly be poisoned and end up probably hurting yourself or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think you are a true genius, my friend. We don't deal
Oh God.
with this shit.
well,
Look,
you know,
I am
like yourself, we're in trouble.
I am glad I moved here because, you know, if you're from the coasts, you have no conception of the Midwest. Nothing at all, right?
right.
So when I hear this sort of coastal snobbery of like Chicago, blah, 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 that's when the oh fuck you kicks in.
So was it culture shock when you first moved to Chicago, or like, what is this?
Yeah, kind of being roommates with kids from Iowa, shit like that.
Right.
Where
All
in
that
Jersey
sort of stuff.
from? Where in Jersey?
A town called Middlesex. It's near New Brunswick.
Well, so I mean, then
Okay.
again, look, I love Jersey, boys, girls, or others, but when you're in the outskirts of Jersey, you can't really have a West Coast, I mean, an East Coast attitude, you know. And again, this coastal attitude bullshit. I'm from the Rust Belt. I am a Rust Belt snob.
Well, I mean, so New Brunswick, that's where Rutgers is.
Rutgers, yeah.
New Brunswick can be a little rough. They have some rough neighborhoods, but yeah, I don't know.
They had a good like music scene. I would say for New Jersey, the radio, and what really got me into music was the multiple radio stations in New Jersey. You had FMU, you had RSU, that was from Rutgers, you had PRB, that was from Princeton, you had the metal station, SOU. So like then like moving out here, there's no radio, or if there is, it's only like 5 watts. You can get it down the street.
Yeah.
So you started doodling in high school. What music were you listening to then? With all of the great radio stations, I mean, filtering through your psyche.
Well, it started with like shitty thrash metal, and then went to punk, and I was always looking for the weirder stuff, which at the time the entry points were like Dead Kennedys and Black Flag, and then listening to FMU, just getting into free jazz. Not to say that I'm heavy deep into free jazz, but just having all these like crazy fucking duck quacking sounds thrown at me, the sort of dissonance that I was always looking for in music.
Well, it helps to expand, you know, the musical consciousness when you get out of those really strict, you know, classified genres of music. I mean, and whether you want to say hardcore or punk, I mean, when you go into free jazz, that's why it's called free jazz. It might be more expansive, allowing than something. I mean,
and then the other thing about just like kind of like classic and pop rock radio is even if they're circulating those same 60 songs, it's kind of what they're really circulating is like 5 songs because they're all kind of the same fucking thing. And so yeah, you know, widening your palette and being curious about that is for me, it was brain expanding. I feel like I could feel my brain expanding once I started to dive into those types of things. So when were you in bands in high school?
I was in chorus.
What were you, tenor, baritone, or bass?
I don't know what the fuck I was. When I started being outwardly being more of a weirdo, that's when it was like, fuck that shit. I'm not doing that shit.
I have a feeling you might have come out kicking as a weirdo. Oh, that's a high compliment coming from me.
Was your weirdo persona accepted or rejected in your high school?
You know, I went to high school around that time that Nirvana was getting big, and that was kind of a saving grace, because before that, like, I was like a fuck up dirtbag kind of kid. But then, like, when Nirvana became cool and kids wanted to emulate that, they saw me, and it was like, oh, here's this kid that is already there. So
already grunge, already full of grunge.
it made those last few years of high school really easy.
And also, I mean, going from dirtbag to grunge is not a big step.
I can't say I ever did like grunge, but that was I was their closest reference point.
Right, understandable. What painters influenced you? And I was thinking, and maybe you know better than I do, because I can't really remember the name, but there were these two brothers. I think they were twins out of New York. I think they were called the Stark or Starn twins, that did these small statues, like grotesque human beings with like penis noses. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Jake and Dino Chapman.
Is that it? They were that was, I was reminded of them with some of your work.
Yeah,
especially the images in the videos where there are these sculptures. Are all those sculptures your designs that are in the videos?
The masks, yeah.
They're amazing. They're really fucking cool. And yeah, so the Chapmans, right? That's who they really reminded me of that. So were they an influence on you, and who else artistically?
In high school, you know, it was just your basic painters that they throw at you, that sort of stuff. But I would say now the artists that kind of had a lasting impression, like Paul McCarthy, Henry Darger. I've always loved Picasso, and then a lot of German expressionists. The Germans that are the new objectivity, you know, is like post-war, really nasty looking, lots of detail in the face and stuff like that. And I guess to bring it back to like actual contemporary people, Joe Coleman, like I would just pour over a book I had of Joe Coleman's paintings, just all that detail, all that crazy chaos happening, and just the obsessive work ethic he had.
One eyelash brush, one hair brush. We've had him on the show. He's an amazing character.
I heard that one, yeah.
He's so wonderful, and he's so obsessed, and he's so thoroughly himself. He's just really a delightful individual. He once introduced me at a show. There was some event we were doing at the Slipper Room, which is a small, very cute, kind of burlesque salon. And he gave me the best introduction of my life. I don't remember what he said, but I was just so flattered. And I just think he's such an incredible genius and really wonderful. So yeah, Joe Coleman.
So going to Art Institute,
yeah.
How was your work received by the professors? Were they encouraging? Were they kind of discouraging or too critical, or was the whole experience a positive one for you?
Well, I'm kind of a night person. I've always been a night person. So when I finally got the opportunity, I would just come into the studio classes around noon or 1, and then stay all night and work, and then do it the next day. But some of them didn't like that. Painting, I didn't do much painting. It was mostly screen printing and sound. And where I got the best reception and more rounded education was through the sound department, because you know, it really great people came through there to teach that knew about art, but were also in this other more conceptual sound world that I found more interesting than a lot of like old lady Sunday painters. That's what a lot of the Art Institute was like. This sort of like foofy bullshit abstract stuff.
Some of your early sound work, is this like kind of psychedelic, psycho-ambient soundscapes?
It's kind of like musique concrète stuff. I would go around and sort of like have friends enact actions that would do some sort of rhythmic sound, and then just sort of cut and paste that, and then just sort of work with it rhythmically and gesturally. And it was a good, because I have no fucking musical knowledge. Even with the music Lovely Little Girls, I have to learn stuff like a monkey. There's all these crazy time signatures, and I don't know what the fuck it is. So I have to go over it over and over again until it just locks in and internalizes, because I can't count that shit.
But
hey, I have my lyrics on stage. It's like my brain hurt like a warehouse. There's only so much room to spare. That's David Bowie, not me. But I don't consider, although I use music as one of the forms I create and express myself in, I'm not a musician. And I'm always so thrilled to work with the geniuses I work with now, which is, of course, Tim Dahl, Weasel Walter, and Kevin Shea. And I mean, Matt Nelson in this, what Tim and I and Matt Nelson are doing now, Murderous Again. I'm always so impressed that they allow me into their world, but then again, I am the wordsmith, and there's no competition, so we come together. And that's what I wanted to ask you, were you ever doing spoken word in your music, concrete or not? Have you done spoken?
Not so, yeah, and it's very hard. It's very difficult. It's the most naked I've ever felt on stage.
And even with they wearing panties and a corset.
well, that's my armor, right? When I'm doing spoken word or a reading or something, I'm just a schlub on stage. And so how do I keep these people's interest?
Maybe you need to take one of the word workshops, because I find it the easiest and most empowering thing to do. But then again, I've got no problem fucking talking, honey.
I feel once I like adopt a persona, I started adopting a more of a Gilbert Gottfried sort of delivery. And with that, it was a lot easier to do.
Okay,
well, so I've been accused of having a bit of a Rodney Dangerfield in my persona, or Don Rickles even.
I think more Don Rickles.
Definitely Don Rickles.
Do you like Don Rickles?
Don Rickles is great.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment for both of us.
So you're doing like this music concrete. I guess you were doing a Pro Tools, or were you actually doing it with like razor blades and tape when you were studying?
ADAT.
Oh, those sounded terrible. Those were always
it was post tape machine, and they got a bunch of ADAT machines and a couple computers, but paying for drive space was way too expensive. So all right, I'm going to use this ADAT. So I would record on cassette, dump it into the ADAT.
Okay, all right.
Whatever tools you have the access to. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have only a piece of charcoal and a paper, if that's what you have, if you have a cassette and a recorder, if you have a bullhorn, if you've got to create the equipment should not be the stumbling block. And sometimes it could be a concrete block with a hammer that makes a very good presentation live. Fluxus, if you will.
I was doing a lot of screen printing in school, and getting out of school, I had no means to screen print, because, a studio for that sort of stuff can be expensive unless you want to like hold your screen up to the sun to burn it.
What were the images that you were doing then? What kind of stuff were you screen printing?
I was making masks back then, and taking photos, and then kind of getting a shitty, grainy, Xeroxy version of that, and just sort of adding color, kind of like Andy Warhol.
Sounds great.
Do you make your own Lovely Little Girls t-shirts? I would assume you do.
No, because I hate screen printing. I was a terrible screen printer.
Okay.
Terrible technical screen printer. All my polls were just fucking garbage.
I just made flasks for Murderous again. What I do with Tim and Matt, and flasks are really a nice thing as opposed to t-shirts to sell.
Flasks?
Yes. Black flasks to hold. Yeah, I'm into black flask, not black flag. And they have Murderous again logos on it. They're very limited, but I always look for an alternative merchandise because I don't wear t-shirts, and I wish other people didn't either.
That's the thing with me too. I don't wear graphic t-shirts too often, so I'm like, who the fuck buys this shit? And people are telling me tote bags.
Tote bags are better. You know what? A toilet bag. Flasks. It's the wave of the future. I'm just saying.
So how many albums does Lovely Little Girls have? How many have you put out?
We have 3 so far. One's coming out next month, and then a shitty little EP from like 2006.
I have that EP.
A shitty little EP?
A shitty little PP. A shitty little EP.
And the cover of that EP is pretty, if we're talking about the same one, it's pretty insane. Is it like, I'm trying to remember, there's like penises and stuff, and like, or is there some genitalia?
It's like more like a vagina.
Vagina, yeah, that's right.
Bag, just sitting in a field of grass with a little straw stuck in it.
Okay, all right. I mean, how big are
what is a vagina but a penis turned inside out? Oh wow, that's a good one. That's my next t-shirt.
So how big are I've seen your paintings only on only on things like records, CDs, or on the internet. I have no idea what the scale is of a lot of these things. How large are they usually? Are they all
from 6 inches by 6 inches to the biggest one I did was 9 feet by 11 feet. So they vary, but usually they're, a good 2 to 3 feet. That's the general comfortable size. Yeah. Working on that large painting was one of the best experiences I've had because it was a commission, it was paid for. I didn't have to have existential crisis about getting up in the morning and painting. It was just, and then it was huge and it was very physical. Whereas the small stuff I do, it's like this, and I'm crunched.
You gotta summon your inner Joe Coleman.
I do every goddamn day, and my back curses me for it.
Oh, and so where is this 9 by 11 foot painting now?
Mexico City.
All right.
Wow, that's so cool. So can people buy your paintings online, or do you have a gallery represent you, or how does one get their hands on one of these 2 by 2 or 2 by 4, the ones that we can actually handle and put in our houses?
My primary gallery representation is here in Chicago. It's ZG Gallery. You can go to their site, see what's in stock, or just contact me and I'll put you in contact with whatever gallery has whatever piece.
Do you take like special orders? Like I'd like to see.
No, because I'm a terrible illustrator. And if somebody says,
I don't take requests. Why should you take requests for paintings? Exactly. Forget about it. Just ask it.
If someone says, hey, paint, whatever the fuck you paint, I want it especially for me, then that's fine. But I've been doing this series of cat paintings, and those I do take commissions on because they're just, every painting is just a portrait of a cat. So, send me your cats.
I was showing your work to Joseph Keckler, who's been on this show, who has a great spoken word piece called Cat Lady, which begins, I am not a cat lady. And his mother is a cat lady. And I was showing him her cat paintings. And so I'm suggesting you check out Cat Lady by Joseph Keckler. I wanted to also ask you, do you know one of my favorite living spoken word artist and visual artist is Brian Lewis Saunders, who has done a portrait of himself every day since 1995.
Right. Yeah.
He is absolutely just one of my favorite people, one of my favorite artists. His spoken word is incredible. The Art of Darkness is on YouTube free. It's a documentary about his paintings, but you should know him. You should both know each other because I think you'd really like each other.
I'm familiar with his art. I didn't realize he did any sort of spoken word stuff.
I will send you links to the I'll send you links to his most terrifying pieces.
I listened to a podcast with him a few months ago, and he was an interesting interview.
Yes, he is. So, Greg.
Yes. My computer is heaving right now, so there's a lot of extra noise.
No, sorry. Your sound is very good. In fact, something happened with the audio because the low end is suddenly a lot deeper and rumbling, which is
yes.
There you go. Would you ever consider singing in the really low register with the lovely little girls?
For the new record, there's a lot of low stuff, like Joe Frank. Are you familiar with Joe Frank? I love Joe Frank.
Joe Frank. Probably should be.
He was like a radio artist guy, and his stuff is always very dry, talking like this, and just the most absurd stories unraveling. It was always on NPR. He died maybe 5 years ago, but
as long as he's better than Garrison Keillor.
God. No, he's nothing like Garrison Keillor. I explain him to some people, and they go, "Oh, you mean like Ken Nordine?" And I'm like, "No, not really. Kind of, but not as goofy and corny. It's really, really fucked up, dark shit, and I love it." So, to get back to your question about going into the low register, studio wise, it's great because I just pump up the compression in my headphones and I can get really good. Like,
yeah.
But live wise, it's so hard to cut through the fucking racket of those fucking musicians behind me.
Yeah,
because frequency wise, it just sort of blends into everything, unless you are have amazing lung capacity, right? You can just push it through.
You can push it through. But even the arrangements for that kind of singing, the instruments can't take up too much frequency space, and they still have to leave room for it, so it can fit in the mix. But I just thought that would have been
the fun. Musicians I work with are kind of prog guys, and they like to take up a lot of space. So my main role in the band is say, "Hey, pull that back. Everything doesn't have to be compressed into 3 seconds."
I think I like when you stimulate your inner Barry White.
Well, that I don't know how to interpret that question, but
then again, I didn't want to see no panties. You might appear on stage just nude from the waist down. I'm not sure. That I'm just fantasizing now.
Has an audience member ever thrown panties or bras at you in your performance?
But put this bra on. You got the panties on. Where's the bra?
There was someone came to a show. This was years ago, and she had put on probably like 30 pairs of panties. And throughout our performance, she would just sort of peel them off and hand them out to the crowd.
Oh, nice.
Where was that?
It was here in Chicago at a space called Buddy.
I mean, I keep referencing this performance I saw online from the Empty Bottle. I don't know if you're always just in a sexy corset and panties, but I did find that a rather fetching look. So I don't really.
Thank you.
I found that very sexy look.
I've seen you in many different costumes. Well, I don't know how many times I've seen you guys. 3, maybe. Was there a show in Death by Audio we did together?
Yeah.
And you had those 2 background singers, right? You had the I don't know if you still have the same ones. The guy was like wearing like pleated khaki pants, and then you were tapered pleated khaki pants, and you were doing your costume. It was a very very eclectic mix of fashion on stage. I remember that it did stand out.
I don't know why, but I just thought of the, and I say the word ugly because that's what they use. The ugly drag artist Christine. Are you familiar with their art?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, I just don't know why I just suddenly thought of them and who I have a fondness for myself, but I just thought that would be a great double bill.
So with a new album coming out in a month, are you going to take it on the road? Are you going to really push it?
Trying to push it via not the usual blog bullshit PR route that I feel doesn't do a fucking thing these days. Because
so billboards instead, you're going to take out a few billboards with your picture on it. Not a bad idea. Who can afford it? Though?
Well, you might laugh at this. Well,
Instagram
and TikTok.
Oh yes, those things. I mean,
it's a lot more effective than blogs, which nobody fucking reads anymore. The shit writing, like who?
I don't myself do TikTok, and I do have people administer my Instagram and my Facebook because I know that they're necessary, and I do consider them kind of evils. But yeah, people have to know what you're doing. But I think TikTok might work very well for you, actually.
I'm obsessed with TikTok.
You are.
No. It comes out.
I have to check out your TikTok profile.
There's such a collision of different kind of people just doing everyday fucking shit on there. It's I can get a little glimpse into an inmate's life, like some woman working behind a register in bumfuck Indiana at a gas station.
Who might secretly be a very big fan of yours. Once they find out about you via TikTok, you never know.
No, I think they have plenty of creepers just constantly texting them as they do their behind the counter talking nonsense.
I always like to goes on under the counter myself, but that's just me because I am a creeper, all right. I'm a freaking creep, and I admit it. Watch out. I want to see what goes on below the surface.
Have you ever been cyber stalked?
Not yet.
Not really. Just and I'm just the usual sort of like, I see a message from this person, and I'm like,
right.
I'm sure you can relate.
So going back to this new album, you're gonna tour it though? Are you gonna tour the United States?
Oh yeah,
Europe.
Is it an EP or is it an LP?
It's an LP. We're gonna go a little east, down south, and end up in Texas to do the No Coast Fest.
No Coast. I did it last year. That should be fun, and I love the whole Denton scene there. It's a nice community.
Yeah, it's great.
They really they care about each other and they care about the music. But
where are some favorite places to play, or where have you had the best response, or where do you want to play?
Would love to go to Europe. The best place I've played, maybe Denton, Texas.
Yes.
I'll
be there myself with Kevin Shea in September doing a drum and vocal duet.
Not a bad answer.
I've always been terrified of Texas, and a few years ago we went down there. I'm like, oh my god, gonna get fucking killed. We're gonna die. But aside from the vast open wasteland of Texas, those cities are phenomenal, and it was very eye-opening for me.
Well, people come to the table with all types of assumptions, as we know, and Texas has a lot to offer. Texas has a lot of pride and personality. So even though we can all criticize a lot of things about it, it at least says something.
Well, look, often that seem so conservative or so repressed or so religious or so stupid or so patriarchal, the rebellion is going to be twice as strong often in those places. So there is going to be an embrace of weirdos like us, because there are weirdos everywhere. Let's face it. And I think that in times of, in times of this conservative bullshit that's taking over the entire freaking country. Now, I don't really know if it's taking over the country or it gets more press than it should. Because maybe if we didn't focus so much on these bullshit religious fanatic MAGA muffins, focus more on other things that were happening, we could have a better understanding of really a more well-rounded image of what the frick is going on out there. Just saying.
One thing about Texas, though, Greg, is make sure you get the right address when you go to someone's house. I made that mistake, and that guy came at us with a gun, and I'm just happy that didn't end worse. But
why were you? I would also bring a parasol because I would hate for you to sun blister your beautiful face.
All right,
sunscreen every day and living at night.
Are you going to be playing other cities in Texas besides Texas? I know when we played there, we weren't allowed to play Dallas or something because it was a conflict because it's really close. But you're going to play Houston and Austin and those places.
San Marcos, outside of Austin.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Never played there before. My contact guy down there, Addict Ted, he was like, "Fuck Austin, just come to San Marcos."
How many pieces will be traveling with you down to your foray onto this promotion of this coming LP?
Other people, did you say?
How many people in the band? 9 again?
No, it's only going to be 5. No guitar player, no trombone player. So it's sort of a stripped down thing, which is kind of nice because it's a whole lot less personalities to manage.
So what is the instrumentation then?
Bass, drums, keyboard, and the sax player who plays sax and an extra keyboard.
Nice.
I have to get back into shape. I've been very I've lost it.
You know
after lockdown, I've not got back to my
gym rat your days
shape. Yeah, my gym rat body.
You know, there's something for everyone to love. Let's face it. What films influenced you, or do you still have the time to watch films, or do you watch TV, or do you binge watch, or do you read a book, or what the frick do you do besides work your fingers to the bone and your pretty little head into neuroses thinking about what's going to happen on the next tour?
I don't watch too many films these days because it's like, oh fuck, 2 hours. Oh,
I know.
So it's more like an episode of a good show every night rather than.
What are your favorite shows, or what's something you saw recently that you really liked?
Mad Men is the
you
ultimate
like that really
Brad show. Oh fuck, I love that show. And
what
Sopranos is great.
Okay.
What's that?
He also likes Sopranos. What is it about Mad Men that appeals to you? That's not the fit I was expecting.
The I like
haircuts?
that it's the first season was okay, but it got into more thematic writing rather than, all these fucking shows, they have the big bad character at the end, and the entire season is in service of like, how are you going to defeat this big bad character? And then the next season they're treading waters in that last season big bad character becomes an ally. It's the same with all these fucking shows. Whereas Mad Men, they dealt with stuff thematically and they weren't too concerned about the big plot, which I really appreciated. It was more character and theme driven, which you don't see too often in shows.
And you saying that's why one of my favorite ever fictionalized TV shows is True Detective season 1 with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, because there was only one season. It was character driven. The existential angst in it was so superb, and the writing was fantastic. And that the creator, and besides that, it has a fantastic song by the Hanson family that do the theme song is so beautiful.
Weird.
That's just one of the best TV shows that has ever existed. And the fact that they refuse to they've done other series, but not based on the same characters. or the same actors. And True Detective season 1, miraculously involving.
I tried getting into that, but I think Matthew McConaughey kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, I wish he would the wrong way.
Have you seen The Leftovers? Speaking of like character-driven shows.
No, I haven't, but I'm up for suggestions.
It's 3 seasons, probably the most brilliant, my favorite show. It's
The Leftovers.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna check it.
Partly Lost, the show Lost, but really delving into loss and regret in a really smart and interesting way.
Okay.
I cannot wait.
Interesting. Did you what's your favorite game show?
The Match Game.
Not the Match Game on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Nope. Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley and Richard Dawson.
Oh, Richard Dawson, real creep. you like French to 12-year-old girls on Family Feud. It'd be really weird. I don't know why.
I'm just thinking of, not exactly, that's got nothing to do with game shows, but I'm remembering Bob Crane, Hogan's Heroes. He was a radio DJ and a drummer before Hogan's Heroes, who was then murdered because he was such a dick slinger. But he was doing it with a friend of his, and when he wanted to stop slinging his dick, his friend I think murdered him. And there's a really good documentary about Bob Crane. I don't know why that suddenly popped into my head, but it just did.
Did they make a drama movie about him?
They did. Yeah, they did.
Very good.
With what's his face in it as well?
I can't remember. It's really good, I must say. Anyway, on that note, I think that we can close out and promote the fantastic paintings of Gregory Jacobsen and the lovely little girls. If you want true post no wave, a little bit prog, I'd call it no wave cabaret, actually, of lovely little girls with incredible artwork in the videos, masked, made by the aforementioned, and just in general, all around fantastically talented weirdo of the highest order. So happy to know you, my friend, and hope to see you when you come to New York.
And
thank you.
Keep an eye out for the listeners. Keep an eye open for the album that they're coming out with in the next month, and maybe come to a town near you this fall.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
I will have you again when we meet each other, no doubt. This has been
excellent.
With Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Gregory Jacobsen. Thank you so much.